Hello, thank you for tuning into the Natural Health Rising podcast. My name is Rachel Smith. I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I've helped hundreds of people naturally reverse symptoms of autoimmune diseases and other health challenges, from digestive issues to hormone imbalances. And in these weekly episodes, you're going to learn from myself and top health experts from around the world about functional medicine and holistic health tips to help you rise to your healthiest, happiest self. On this episode of the Natural Health Rising podcast, I have Victor Sagalovsky with me. Victor is the co-founder and CEO of LightWater Scientific, the first and only super deuterium-depleted light water, where he has dedicated himself to the research, development, and production of this rare water. Victor started his career as an innovator in plant-based culinary art, having co-founded the first organic gourmet raw food restaurant in North America called Raw. He attended Loyola University and the University of Hawaii, where he pursued multidisciplinary education. He has completed apprenticeships and graduate coursework in chemistry, optical microscopy, and molecular biology. He is the author of many articles and guides in the field of wellness, biohacking, emerging medicine, technology, mysticism, and esoteric wisdom. Outside of the water category, Victor is the author of Gold, Catalyst of Radiant Health, a book about the history and science of the medical benefits of gold. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rachel.
So let's just dive straight into all of the good stuff about deuterium.
Well, the bad stuff about deuterium, the good stuff about reducing deuterium.
Exactly.
Or at least knowing what deuterium is, because
that's the first question, right? Is what is deuterium and where does it come from? I don't think many people, at least listening on this podcast, have heard of it because we haven't talked about it yet.
Well, if we go all the way back to science class, and in science class, we learned about the periodic table, right? All the elements in the universe. So the first one is hydrogen, right? That's the simplest element in nature, and it's the first one created in the universe. Well, it has a cousin. It has another version of it that's called an isotope. And this is something we've only been discovering the last 100+ years, that elements also have isotopes of them based on how many neutrons they have. Well, hydrogen is a great element because it has no neutrons. That's why the body loves it. That's why stars love it. That's why everything uses it for fuel, because it's so simple, just a proton and electron. And deuterium is a hydrogen with an added neutron. So it doubles the mass of that hydrogen, and all havoc starts to happen when you replace a deuterium or replace a hydrogen for a deuterium. So in our bodies, where our bodies are on hydrogen, so everywhere that there's a position for a hydrogen, if it's taken up by a deuterium, then problems ensue.
Okay. So you already had alluded to this about it being harmful to us in some way. So I know you have your...
Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and you were double the body mass you are now. And that's kind of what it's like at the nano level.
Okay.
So this is the issue. So it interferes with our energy production. And so the goal, all the 60+ years of science and research, points to the fact, it's a fact now, that we have more deuterium in our bodies than we should for our physiology. So if we reduce that, then great things start to happen.
Okay. So yeah, you have your endogenous radiation damage theory of aging, which proposes
That's
that
right.
Our biggest obstacle to longevity is the excess deuterium and these other damaging isotopes on the planet, and how, if we properly mitigate these things, this can extend our lifespan. So can you explain more of what are the health implications of having these higher deuterium levels in our body?
Well, we're all familiar with longevity, right? If you have a person that makes it to 90, the chances of a 90-year-old making it to 100 is, I don't know if you know the statistic, but it's about every, what is it? It's about 1 in 70. So 1 in 70 90-year-olds will make it to 100. And when you get to 100, the chances of a 100-year-old making it to 110 are 1 in 700. So it's a factor of 10. And then we don't make it much past that. So these questions that we have, because of the luxury of the modern age that we live in, we have this luxury of asking the question, or at least, and even researching super longevity. How do we really radically extend the human lifespan? And I think there's a lot of thought being put into this, a lot of research. And when I started looking into this, I saw that we won't overcome this until we overcome this endogenous radiation problem and this deuterium problem. Well, the deuterium problem we're addressing right now. We're creating water that has 97% of its deuterium isotopes removed. The radiation damage coming from within, that's one that's going to take some time. But I think that's what really, once you unlock those, I think these extended lifespans are possible, like they talk about. People in the live in the hundreds of years. When I was growing up, I was always enamored, fascinated with these stories of these immortal yogis. So it's always been a passion of mine to understand human longevity and the lifespan and what causes us to age. So if you take a Geiger counter, which measures radiation, and you put it on yourself or you put it on the background, you're always going to be hotter, right? So we produce radiation from within just because of, well, it's a complex thing, but it's because of a number of factors, and the food we eat, the isotopes, how we produce energy. We run hot, right? So if we reduce this or can eliminate it eventually, I think we can slow down, seriously make some progress in slowing down the aging process. I think it's very possible with everything we know today. If you think about it, you look at our bones, and our bones are engineered to last 1,000+ years, but all the organs fail and everything else. Mm-hmm. So we're designed to live a long time. It's just this is the quest of immortality, or at least the quest of longer life, functional life, a healthy lifespan. You don't want to be 100 and look 100. You want to be vital. And there are some people that achieve this. If you look out there and see what people are doing, it's quite phenomenal. So I'm just trying to contribute to this endeavor of understanding human aging and mitigating it, and seeing what we can do with some easy interventions, things that are within the realm of nature, or at least tangential to it, instead of completely radically in the biomedical transhumanist space. I think that there are clues in nature, and there's things that we've lost that have been given to us over thousands of years. So it's always fun. It's like being Indiana Jones, trying to uncover things that may have already been given to man but have been lost along the way. So one of those things, whether we knew about it a long time ago or not, we certainly know about it now, and that's deuterium-depleted water.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into all that, what are some of the other isotopes that are damaging?
Potassium-40 would be the main one. So
okay.
A small amount of potassium is potassium-40, and bananas have a lot of potassium, so they'd have excessive amount of potassium-40, but nothing to alarm yourself over. It's just something that's cumulative over time. So it's like watching an hour hand move. You don't really see it when you're looking at it. When you turn away and then look at it again, and it's moved, and that's the human lifespan. That's human aging. As the years and decades roll in, and potassium-40 has that effect, that damaging aging effect. So there's some forms of sodium and oxygen that potentially also can have some negative impact. But potassium-40 is a big problem, and there's nothing we know of right now that we can do to mitigate it, because it's in the food chain.
Okay, interesting. And also, I mean, some potassium is important for us to live, right?
Regular potassium, I think, is potassium-39.
Okay.
And so potassium-40 would be the bad one. Again, it's all because of that extra neutron.
Mm-hmm.
So neutrons they don't know what they want to be, hence the term neutron. You have a proton, which is which is positively charged, and you have an
Mm-hmm.
electron or an electron cloud, which is negatively charged. So you have this polarity of this plus and minus, and those work beautiful together, right? But then you have this neutron that starts to hang out, and it doesn't really know what it wants to be. What it does is it changes based on the amount of protons and neutrons. It changes what that element is, and the isotope of that element. But neutron is there's a whole romantic notion to what a neutron really is. You know, if you look at it, it's like if you look at a neutron in deuterium, where you have a proton and electron, and then you have this neutron hanging out that doesn't belong or shouldn't be there. You look at what is the neutron doing here, and now it starts to look like a chrysalis. It starts to look like something that hasn't achieved its final form. Because in fact, the new science, new physics tells us that a neutron is really a proton electron pair. It's really a hydrogen waiting to be born, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything in the universe is waiting to get to its final expression, its final form. For deuterium, it happens to be hydrogen, but some small amount of hydrogen is in this deuterium state. And this is the entire problem that we have, that we've been working on solving for the last 20 plus years.
Okay. How can someone get their deuterium levels tested? And if so, how
Yeah,
would they do that?
here's the lab right here.
Oh, nice.
There's the ring down spectroscopic analyzer. We had it in a different lab, but we just moved it in house. So what that does is it measures saliva and water or any liquid really, and tells you what the deuterium content is, and then you can know what your before and after is, assuming you get on the deuterium depletion protocol and start
Mm-hmm.
lowering deuterium in your body.
What's the
So yeah,
ideal level of deuterium that is there an ideal level? Like when you look at a test, what would somebody really want to see?
you know, if you're 20% lower than what the average is, so most people are 150 parts per million. And if you get into the 120 part per million range, or even lower than that, you're doing well. Now that's like a jump start for your mitochondria.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So explain the concept of this deuterium depleted water and the benefits and everything that you guys are working on.
Well, I'll give you a quick origin story where it all comes from.
Okay.
A couple scientists in Siberia back in the late 1950s were trying to understand why a few populations that were essentially living like Eskimos, uh, populations living in extreme cold environments, why they had such a pronounced amount of longevity. They had quite a number of centenarians, a lot more than anywhere else in Europe or the Soviet republics or Asia for that matter. So they were trying to figure out why these people were so long lived and so healthy. And it took them a few years. And after a while, they discovered their water had less deuterium than
Mm.
what everybody else is drinking. And this started the whole thing off because it was only discovered in 1932 that deuterium even existed. And then 15 years later, these scientists, 15 plus years later, they're trying to understand why these people are so long lived. And they hone in on the water and say, wow, you see, hey, they have 16% less deuterium. Could this be it? They start doing a bunch of experimentation on plants and animals. And sure enough, they find out that when you add deuterium, you decrease lifespan, decrease energy. And when you reduce deuterium, you increase lifespan, you increase energy.
Mm.
So this started this whole thing. And then it wasn't until 60 years later or so that it was discovered metabolically how it actually does the damage. We understood the kinetics of it, but metabolically in the mitochondria, that was discovered in 2007. A paper was published. So, so essentially, they discovered that when you have less deuterium in the body, you function better. You're more optimal. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to be youthful longer. So so I got excited about this as soon as I found out about it in 2004. I read about it, and then I teamed up with the people, the scientists that were working on this to create a commercial process for reducing deuterium in water. Because in some places in the world, it occurs naturally. Now, not doesn't occur naturally to the point where we make it. We reduce it 97%. But some places in nature, it's reduced from the average by like 15 to 20%. Okay. And this is where people are much healthier, much more active, and actually are fertile into much older years than people that live in coastal areas. So these are typically mountain areas or high elevation or high latitude areas, kind of very remote. So we started producing this water commercially about 10 years ago, and started selling it in the U.S. in 2019. And what it does is, if you drink deuterium-depleted water, you will lower the deuterium in your body over time. It takes about 90 days to get to day one, I like to say, meaning that you're down about 20%. And here you can keep going, but here you can realize the benefits, or start realizing them. You might get them sooner, but really, if you're going down half a ppm to 1 ppm per day, then to get down to the 120 ppm range, depending on your BMI, lifestyle, etc., it's going to take a little time. So it's not an overnight thing. But the point here is to lower the deuterium level. You can do it also naturally, not as effectively. You can do it naturally by fasting, eating primarily a ketogenic diet, like limiting your carbs to maybe 20 grams per day, maybe less, maybe up to 30, but certainly maybe even up to maybe 5, right? But you're trying to lower your deuterium level. So the way you do that is by eating more fats, because they have less deuterium than carbs or sugars. And the other way you do that is by fasting, because your body makes metabolic water. Most of the water that's inside our mitochondria is not the extracellular water. That's a special water. It's called metabolic water, and this water is already deuterium depleted. So our body, in the process of making energy, of making ATP energy, it's making deuterium depleted water. So we know that's what our physiology wants, and now we know that through observation, and we know that scientifically through quantitative analysis. And so this is where we're at. So we make a water where we reduce 94 to 97% of deuterium. There's no place in nature that goes down this low, but this allows people to either rapidly reduce their deuterium or reduce it over time. But it allows them to mix the water with dilute it with other water that they're drinking, and it makes it cost effective, because it's a very expensive water, because it's the cost is in and the energy that it takes to reduce that deuterium. It's not a normal contaminant.
You mentioned a little bit about the mitochondrial energy production. How is the deuterium actually affecting our mitochondria?
It's affecting it very negatively. So if you want to get into a little physiology, right?
Yeah, go for it.
A little biochemistry.
Yeah.
The bulk of ATP. Well, ATP produces the bulk of the energy in the mitochondria, or at least all the energy in the mitochondria. There's some debate on other energy production pathways in the human body. We don't need to get into that now. But let's look at the accepted, settled science of ATP. So the bulk of ATP is produced in the electron transport chain. And in the electron transport chain, at the very end of it, is something known as the ATP synthase nanomotor. This is a little nano machine. It spins up to 9,000 RPM, and in the process, it produces ATP, or rather, it pulls in an ADP and attaches phosphate to it and produces an ATP. So it recycles ADP to ATP. And it does this by shuttling protons through the ATP synthase nanomotor. And a byproduct, by the way, of the ATP is metabolic water. Well, it shuffles protons, like I said, spinning at 9,000 RPM. What causes it to spin is these protons going from one energetic gradient to another, right? There's a difference in pH, protons are going to want to go on this side. So they get into this motor and cause it to spin.
Mm-hmm.
So right about every 15 seconds or so, 5 to 15 seconds, there's some different math on this, but instead of a proton coming into that motor, causing it to spin, you get a deuteron. A deuteron is a proton neutron pair. That is deuterium. So it makes the motor stutter. It causes it to causes wear and tear. No ATP is produced in that moment, so it slows it down and limits its production of ATP and damages it. Why? Because it's trying to put a square peg in a round hole. The motor is looking for a proton, and it gets a proton-neutron pair, which is double the mass, so it doesn't quite fit. So damage occurs. So purely mechanical problem, like I said. And this is how it limits our ATP production and causes wear and tear on the mitochondria to the point where you start losing mitochondria. And this is what causes our ability to have less energy when we're older, not only for basic things like the things we do consciously, like walking and running and smiling, but the unconscious things, the autonomic nervous system, and also the energy that we need for repair, for cellular repair, for DNA repair. So as we have less mitochondria, we have less ATP energy, and our homeostasis goes out of whack, and we have to do more with less. The body gets creative, and at creativity, unfortunately, the byproduct is age. So here we are. So keep the mitochondria healthy. At the end of the day, it's just a game of energy. It's a Game of Thrones. It's a game of energy. So we have this energy game that we're playing, and the goal of the energy game is to keep your mitochondria healthy, and that's one of the goals. The goal is to keep your energy production pathways clean and working, and don't go from if you start out with a V12, don't go down to 3 cylinders. Keep them all firing, and deuterium unfortunately gunks everything up, so we have to address it.
Oh, that was a great explanation. That makes total sense on how that's kind of blocking the metabolic pathway. So as far as enhancing the mitochondrial health, you talked a little bit so far about like fasting, ketogenic diets, the deuterium water, obviously. Do you have a couple other tips that you love for ways that people can enhance their mitochondrial function?
Don't discount fasting. Fasting is one of the nature's gifts to us, and people don't do it enough. It should be they should make it a religious holiday. That's a joke, because they do. Most world religions have fasting built in. In fact, dry fasting, which is even better than fasting with water, much more effective. So that right there would be something that everybody can endeavor to perfect, at least try. So and then for mitochondrial health, breathing, how you breathe is super important. So don't be a mouth breather. Stop that. That's the thing that you're suffering with. Don't address anything else until you fix that, because that will slow down your life.
Absolutely.
So breathe through your nose, breathe coherently, learn about coherent breathing. These things are very important, because if you have a low heart rate and you have a high HRV, then you will live longer, and you will be happier, and you'll be healthier. We spend most of our life sleeping, right? So we want to optimize everything, so we can go into deep sleep faster, have less superficial sleep, so we have more waking state that is optimal, right? Balance between a parasympathetic and a sympathetic nervous system. So yeah, it's not just about the foods we eat, but it's also about breath as well.
Yeah, those are great tips. And I love that you mentioned HRV too, because that's a great way for people to track and see, are these things that they're doing working? And I know I have the Aura Ring, which is super easy way to track your HRV all the time. And as soon as I see it dropping, I'm like, okay, what have I not been
What
doing?
did
Or
I
what have I,
do?
yeah, what have I
What
been
did I
doing too
do?
much of? Am I stressed? Am I not exercising enough? Like what is happening in my life? And then can go right into fix mode. So
It
yeah,
doesn't lie,
it's
right? It doesn't lie at
no, it's
all.
so
And
good.
so my goal, my endeavor, uh, is like I believe in biohacking, right?
Hmm.
The useful word to describe is what essentially is yoga, or yoga with a twist. With but I think after 50, um, I'm more interested in geroprotection. Right? I've done all the things before 50. I figured out how fast I can run, how high I can climb, how I tested the limits, and so
Hmm.
you gain some benefit from this, right? Not only personal insight but physical ability. So, but after 50, you want to maintain it. You want to keep it. You just want to lose. You just want to not lose what you gain. So, geo protection becomes really important. And I noticed that when it comes to HRV and heart rate, that the goal for me as part of geo protection has become to keep that heart rate low, especially the resting heart rate, and keep that HRV high, and try to get it to the levels that it should be. When you're, over 50, you should get it. You should endeavor to get it in the levels that people experience in their 20s. And some days I
Hmm.
hit it, some days I don't. But that just shows you that with proper intervention in keeping your mitochondria and your your not only your mitochondria but your brain neuroplastic as well, because it's all starts up here, right? So as long as you keep these things primed and in good shape, you should have the same kind of abilities you did you should have a 20, 30 year plus span of time where your abilities don't waver, physical, mental, spiritual.
Yeah, absolutely. How often should people be drinking deuterium depleted water? Is this like every single day I'm drinking this morning till night?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what change your water, change your life. What are you putting in your body? You so people either dilute it with water they already drink, because just make it more cost effective, or they don't give up whatever else they're drinking, but they add light water to
Hmm.
their daily regimen. So a half liter to a liter. Most people do about 16 liters per month, and they're able to make that. That's about a half a liter per day, and that's a good start. I think it's more important as you're older. This deuterium problem is a cumulative thing.
Hmm.
So when you're younger, we feel we're invincible, and then when we're older, we don't feel that anymore, because the we don't have the ability to heal like we did when we were younger. So I can say my healing ability is pretty good. Like, minor scrapes and falls and tears and bruises, and or whatever it is, cuts. It's just I heal very fast, and I noticed this because I didn't start drinking DDW, deuterium depleted water, until my late 40s, mid to late 40s, and when we started this company, and I noticed how my healing ability completely changed, because I was already mostly, I mean, very healthy, just focused on a lot of the focused on the right lifestyle to maintain my interest in my zest, right?
Hmm.
My virility, my I was already eating the right things, doing the right things, but then when I added DDW to the mix, I noticed that I noticed that crucial piece of ability to heal from injury. So,
Mm.
and that's what ultimately can take us down, and what can cause us to age is injuries that do not heal. Like, that slows us down. The scar tissue, the mental stress of the injury itself, physical pain. So the important thing, as we get older, as we age, as we go through the life process, that whatever injuries we get, it's important that we focus all our attention on those injuries until they completely heal. Because if they're not, then they linger on, and eventually can be the cause of our undoing later. So yeah, that's really important. But to give yourself the energy that you need for that healing, you have to lower your deuterium levels.
Hmm. Anybody who shouldn't for any reason be drinking deuterium depleted water, like pregnant or children or anything like that?
I haven't seen, it's just water at the end of the day,
Right.
right? So it's just water that has less deuterium. You're still going to get a lot of deuterium from food.
Hmm.
You're not gonna get rid of it entirely. It's impossible. So I've seen people give it to their children and newborns. I mean, obviously we tell uh, consult your, we advise people to consult their healthcare practitioner to see what they should do. But it's just water. It's just water at the end of the day.
Hmm.
It's water that's closer to the water that your cells make, that your mitochondria makes, the metabolic water.
Right.
So it's just purer water. If you look at a liter of water, there's 20,000 drops of H2O in that liter. But 20,000, it's not 20,000 drops of H2O because six of those drops are HOD, right? That D being deuterium. So when we think of water, we think of H2O. And there's a little bit of water that's this HOD or HDO, which is semi-heavy water, and then even less of D2O, which is pure heavy water. And if you
Hmm.
give pure heavy water, which doesn't exist in nature, but you can make it in the lab, and if you give 35% heavy water to a human or an animal, they'll be dead somewhere between the third and fifth day. You'll you'll it'll look like water, it'll taste like water, uh, but it's not water. It's heavy water. It's completely different, and it doesn't jive with our biology.
Hmm. Have you seen any other kind of crazy effects from testimonials or other personal experiences that you think are important
I
for
mean,
people to know?
I've seen a lot of when people lower their deuterium levels. I've seen a lot
Hmm.
of disease remission from chronic illness. Uh, so it's not the water; it's your own body, self-healing organism that is now lower in deuterium, but now enjoys a considerable amount more energy, or conserves a bit about more energy. So, and there's less energy going toward repair, so it can go. I've seen injuries that were long standing suddenly heal, and in concert with another thing. You asked me if I recommend anything else, and hyperbaric.
Hmm.
So increasing the amount of oxygen in our blood plasma, the amount of oxygen that we can use for repair. I've seen injuries that haven't been addressed for decades all of a sudden start healing because the body doesn't try to repair if it doesn't have extra energy. If it only has enough energy for the basic function, then things like detox and repairing old injuries, scar tissue, they just wait. They wait until their energy can be available to the system, but it never comes. But the
Hmm.
body's hopeful it may come, right? That's why
Hmm.
that's why cells don't die right away. They go into senescence. They go into a wait and see mode. It's like, okay, we don't have enough energy. We're gonna shut down, and we're not gonna fire people. We're just gonna lay them off on
Hmm.
the off chance that the factory's gonna restart and everybody's gonna come back to work. But it never happens. What happens is that senescence ghost becomes apoptosis and cell death ensues. So there's always an in-between point where the body says, hey, I'm going to put this on hold until we have some energy to deal with it. If the energy never comes, it never gets dealt with. So I have seen some miracles when energy is restored to the system. Basic things I see is your sleep. Your sleep everything just gets optimized. I often think of when I was in my 20s and I was dealing with all these health challenges that nobody in their 20s should be dealing with. Okay. And I observed my dog, you know, it's a little 13-pound animal. And I observed how relaxed it could be when sleeping, just completely in a parasympathetic mode, just fully relaxed. And I could snap my fingers and say, let's go, it's time. And the dog would be instantly up, active, alert, ready to go. And I said to myself, I want to be like that dog. I want to have a deep sleep, but when it's time to go, I want to wake up. I want to be 100% ready in an instant, not groggy, not waiting, not have to have my coffee. I want to go on or off. And I learned that ability, and that ability has improved with the deuterium depletion. So that is a vital, healthy organism that can do that. It doesn't that they can either be fully relaxed or fully alert, and knowing when you need one. That's how humans should be. Okay, that's how we were when we were hunter gatherers. Okay, we had a little more stress in our lives because we were trying to get food and shelter, so we were resilient, and we've lost a little bit of that resilience having all this modern convenience. So we have to deprogram ourselves, and then still enjoy all the comforts we have, but deprogram ourselves to the point where if we needed to do something, we could do it. And that's the whole promise of deuterium depletion, is that energy on reserve. We need it. You don't always have to use it. You don't always have to feel like you're amped full of energy. But man, when you need it, you better have it available. Because if you don't, bad things can happen.
That makes sense. I'm curious, when you were in your 20s, what was going on with your health?
I was dealing with a number of things. I was dealing with one, my body. I just didn't. Something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. Eventually, I discovered it was a number of things. One of them was mercury poisoning, intense mercury poisoning. Unfortunately, vaccine injury. That was another one. Stunted my development. The mercury messed up a lot of things, and then so did not knowing how to eat, not knowing how to feed yourself, where you're living a biogenic lifestyle, where you're understanding that food is medicine and not a poison. So I had to learn that part. So but the mercury thing was a big one for me, and that had caused late development and a number of other things. So I did, and it caused it created certain allergies for me. So I became a raw foodist, not just purely out of necessity, because my body couldn't digest what I was eating, and I was having all these problems. And so I over time, yes, you can master a subject. Maybe not 100% because there's no end to knowledge, but you could certainly master a subject like food and how to feed yourself, and cuisine, culinary arts, and food as medicine, and understanding. But I think you have to understand. I started on the culinary side, and moved on to the biochemistry side. And when you have both, you understand that you start to understand a few things. And I keep recalling the words of a French chef that said, "Bacteria makes the best cook."
What is that again?
Bacteria makes the best cook.
Oh, bacteria. Oh my gosh. What did you do?
Frenchmen would say that, right?
Yeah, that's funny. What did you do did you do chelation therapy for the mercury, or was there a more natural, gentle process that you went through?
I tried gentle. I ended up settling on not so gentle, on wrathful. And I got quite interested in a subject of monatomic elements and making ormus gold. And one of my interests was not only because of the mystical properties that I found out about it and read about it and it's discovered. That's a whole other story. But because of its ability to amalgamate mercury and detoxify mercury from the brain, and it works. But you can use at that time in the 90s, not much was known, but you could use single sulfur bond chelators like cilantro. You could use double sulfur bond chelators like DMSO, DMPS, things like this. I used fulvic acid. What if you're a poor methylator? I'm not, but at that time I was. So you have to use more advanced things like biscarboxyethyl, germanium cisfoxide. You have to use fulvic acid isolate. You have to use other clathrates. But gold works fantastic. And eating a lot of cilantro in your diet. Certainly, you have to have a lot of binders, pectins. So it's not a simple approach to get the mercury out because it hides in the tissues. So you have to move it into the blood, and then you have to get it out of the blood. So and you have to know how to chelate something properly. At that time, nobody that I knew anything about chelation. I was a hippie living on Kauai, most remote island on the planet, trying to figure this stuff out through food as medicine. And eventually, I settled on gold because gold is a food too. But that did it. That detoxified the mercury out of my brain, and it took a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through a similar thing when I was 23. I did the DMSO for like a year due to mercury poisoning as well. So it's not fun to deal with by any means.
It's not fun to deal with. It doesn't, for me, I couldn't sit still. The quicksilver, that's another word for mercury. It's just it really messed up my brain, really like it really messed me up. So I had to do a lot of I had to do a lot of self-inquiry, and a lot of correcting my own neural pathways, because it just erodes entire neural networks in your brain, mercury poisoning. So you have to reconnect those neural networks. It's quite poisonous. Now, lead is another one I had as well. But what this led me on the path to is to have a what would you call it, a rock solid microbiome, right? I think it all goes down to the microbiome and your gut flora, and if you have like my gut flora now, it's like I could probably eat a small bicycle or something, so like took me a long time to nail that one, especially doing all the different diets and understanding, not until I really understood, forget about animal or plant or animal based. It's like what is the building blocks the body needs, and can you give it those building blocks without the waste product, the less waste product, and then what does the microbiome need, and how do you strengthen the microbiome, and how do you diversify the microbiome? And once you do that, and that's people, I would wish upon everybody that they had a microbiome like mine. Yeah.
That's definitely where everybody needs to get their microbiome too. I know we've
travel does it, going to live in all around the world, and it actually increases the diversity in your microbiome.
Yeah, I have a pretty strong gut as well. For some reason, I travel a lot, and I'm always like the one person in the group who never gets a food poisoning or anything like that. Knock on wood, But
see, I didn't, and going from not having a gut, a very weak microbiome, very very limited and compromised microbiome, to a microbiome that's like Bruce Lee. It's quite a contrast, having to experience the before and the after. Some people, maybe like you, some people are blessed with a great microbiome their whole life, and that's why they can't understand why people are so obsessed about this diet or that diet. They go, what's the problem? I can digest anything. They don't. It doesn't do anything negative to them eating bad foods until much later. But for people that start out with a very weak microbiome, when you get a really good microbiome, when it gets strong, man, you're very thankful because you remember what it was like.
Absolutely. I know we've kind of gone down a totally different rabbit hole, but do you have a moment to explain just a tad bit on the medicinal benefits of gold, since you mentioned that. I've really never, no one never says that gold is food, so I've got to ask about that.
I wrote a short book. It's on Amazon. You could read about it there. But briefly, this is where alchemy comes from.
Hmm.
Some etymology on alchemy. Etymology is a study of the origin of words. It may come from the definite article al, which is and then the ancient Chinese word kimye, which is gold juice. So when it entered Arabia, it became the gold juice. And what they figured out a long time ago, thousands of years ago, is that gold has medicinal benefit, but not in the metallic state. You have to reduce it to its potable state, to its basically when you reduce it down to its colloidal or smaller state, also known as monatomic, it has different properties and it behaves differently in the body, unlike the metal. So, and what it does is it increases coherence. It's a synergist. So the mere presence of it causes other things to function better. So this was observed probably thousands of years ago, and this is why alchemy was so important, because it was something that could increase our longevity, and it was a very simple thing that could contribute to basically an illness-free life, right?
Mm.
So disease-free life, which is what we all want. We don't want we don't want all these diseases that have these weird complex names. We want to be healthy from day one to the very last breath. So gold was one of those tricks, and then it has a lot of spiritual benefit as well. It has these. I won't get into that, but you can read that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working with this for about 20 years now, reducing metallic gold to its potable, to its um, to its bioavailable state. And yeah, it's great. Like I said, it's a synergy. It doesn't do anything on its own, but just the mere presence of it causes other reactions to work better.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. If anybody wants to learn more, the book is Gold, Catalyst of Radiant Health. And so we can put a link to that in the show notes so that people can read that and learn more about that, because that's definitely interesting. Um,
Whatever tricks we could get. And I'm always interested in what they discovered, what the ancients discovered, that what they were using, because they didn't have indoor plumbing, and they didn't have
mhm,
cars, and so the things were very valuable to them, that moved the needle at all, anything. And now we're just inundated with so much information and technology, we don't know what moves a needle, okay, because we don't take the time to just be still and get and quiet all the voices in our head and try to get into some insight of
mhm.
what may be beneficial for us on a collective level and a personal level. So when I did that, I realized that this alchemy of gold is something that should not be overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many things that people discovered long ago, right? That gets overlooked. So I think that's amazing that you've gone down that path of looking at the past, essentially.
The wisdom of the ancients is just it has no equal. When you read texts like the Rig Veda,
Mm-hmm.
and great translation by David Frawley, by the way. Uh, Read the Rig Veda sometime. It's the oldest known book in human history. And when you read it, it's like, wow. It's like the poetry and the power and the concepts. It's just this is humanity's oldest text. You go,
Mm-hmm.
wow, we're something so much more than what we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
So much more. So
Now,
yeah. So
now
yeah, we
we're,
try to.
I was gonna say, now we're writing with AI. What a change.
And it's unfortunate because AI, it's a good tool, but it it's not it shouldn't be trusted. Like it
Yes.
always makes mistakes. Like I ask you questions, and then because I know the answer, at least I know close to the answer sometimes, I say, hey, did you give me a wrong answer? It says, oh, I'm so sorry about that. Here's your right answer.
What?
Yeah. Oh, be careful about Chat GPT. It'll
Oh
lie
gosh.
constantly. It will, and you'll catch it. Especially anything to do with an ephemeris, like if you're doing astrological stuff, you go, wait a second, you're wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry. He goes, I'm so sorry. You are
Mm.
correct. I'm wrong. So be careful. Don't lean on this crutch too much.
Oh yeah,
Walk it, walk on two legs.
I definitely learned that as well. I kind of played around with it. I was like, I wonder if it can write me, this email right really quick about health stuff. Let me just see. And I read it, and I'm like, that's nothing I would say. The information about the nutrition is not what I actually know to be true, right? And so I learned that pretty quickly with the health stuff because
Now, if you could
there's
be
no
a
way.
if you if you could be a creative prompt engineer, then you get a lot more out of it.
There you
But
go.
but you have to be informed and educated in order to be a good prompt engineer, and your logic skills have to be on point.
Hmm.
Your critical thinking and logic skills, there it's not a sub. Uh, Chat GPT and AI is not a substitute
Right.
for this.
Yeah.
This is what contributes to IQ. Is your ability to think outside the box.
Hmm.
So either think outside the box yourself, or at least align yourself, model excellence on somebody that already is doing it. In case you're still a neophyte and are on a path of seeking knowledge, and seek knowledge from somebody that actually has it, and not just BSing you or BSing themselves, really. So, you know, model excellence on someone that deserves it.
Hmm. It's a really good tip. Ready to do a speed round? Are you open to that?
Yes.
5 question
Yeah.
speed round? Okay. All
Yeah.
right. What is your favorite thing to do for stress reduction?
I like to swim.
Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I like to travel. I like to travel time.
Travel
Time
time.
travel. Is that, yeah,
Okay.
time traveler? That's a
Yeah,
superpower, right?
that would be cool.
I could be a time traveler.
What's your favorite hobby?
Again, it's anything to do with the ocean, I think. And I think that,
Okay.
yeah, I'm an island boy, so yeah, anything to do above the water, on the water, or under the water.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. What's the best purchase you made in the last year that cost you under $100?
Wow. Well, I, I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. I think, I'll get back to you on that, because what is the best purchase I made that was under $100? I don't know. It was probably buying somebody dinner or lunch,
Okay.
because you can't, yeah, it's always nice to see somebody happy. So, and it costs a lot less than $100 to do that. So maybe it wasn't, yeah,
Absolutely.
it was probably buying somebody dinner or lunch,
Hmm. Uh,
making somebody's day for under $100.
yeah, I think I'll have to change that price eventually as the prices seem to be skyrocketing. So it's getting harder to get things for under $100.
I was joking to my dad. Look how strong I am now. I can carry $100 worth of groceries in one hand.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Last question. If you could leave the listeners with one tip that they could implement this week to help them live a healthier, happier life, what would that be?
Um, I'd say, okay, well, don't stress about things. Like, I like to say, if you're seeking enlightenment, lighten up.
Mm.
If you're worried about something, don't. There's uh, I forgot his name, but a great ancient Indian sage, and he said, look, uh, if the things if the thing that you're worrying about can't be fixed, if it's outside of your control, then why worry about it?
Hmm.
And if the thing that is really stressing you out, if it's something that you can fix, then why worry about it? Can fix or can't fix. Either way, Don't worry about it. Don't let it take you down.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, just keep connected to your breath because and ask yourself who is living you now, right? That's what I learned in my 20s. When you're having some kind of stressful situation, say, is this me or is this somebody else? Who is living this person right now? Is it me trying to do the best I can, or is it somebody else that's kind of not doing the best that they can? So do little philosophical things, but if you implement them, then they have like phenomenal benefits.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you want to share where people can find you and any other information you want to share?
Website is Drink Light Water.
Mm-hmm.
It's DRINKLITE. So light water spelled LITE water, drinklightwater.com. And you can find all the other websites from that. Our social media is linked to that. The deuterium test is linked to that. Our deuterium depletion summit is linked to that. Other things. So that's, if you want to get a hold of me, you can do it through our website, drinklightwater.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor.
Oh, and one more thing. When you go to drinklightwater.com, download the free deuterium depletion guide. And before you even start doing deuterium depleted water, because it is a little pricey compared to free, which is what we get out of the tap, download this guide and read it. Take this seriously, understand what it is, learn some of the science,
Mm-hmm.
learn the philosophy, learn the benefits, and then start on this journey. So
Perfect. We'll put all the links in the show notes for everybody. Thanks for being on the show.
thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and comment, letting me know what you enjoyed and what you want to see more of. Also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get alerts when new content is coming out and you don't miss any videos. And just a quick reminder that this information is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. Please consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise routine, supplements, or medical treatment. If you're looking for a functional medicine practitioner, please reach out to me. And thank you again for watching, and keep striving to become your healthiest, happiest self.